when Jessica grabbed the microphone during her wedding reception and announced, "Let's give a round of applause to Margaret, who's so desperate for attention she wore white to my wedding." The room erupted in gasps and whispers. I stood there, frozen in my cream-coloured dress, the exact shade she'd texted me to wear. 24 hours later, Jessica learned that sometimes the mother-in-law you humiliate is the one holding all the cards. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I should have seen the signs. For 3 years, I'd watched my son Daniel fall deeper under Jessica's spell. The way she'd smile sweetly at family dinners while her hand squeezed his under the table whenever he disagreed with her. The gradual distance that grew between us as she slowly, methodically, cut him off from anyone who might question her control. But I'd bitten my tongue, played the supportive mother, because Daniel loved her, and I loved Daniel. When they announced their engagement, I was genuinely happy. I offered to help with whatever they needed. Jessica's response? "Oh, Margaret, that's so sweet. But honestly, I have a wedding planner for the important stuff. Maybe you could help with something simple." The something simple turned out to be addressing 400 wedding invitations by hand. At 62, with my arthritis flaring up, I spent 6 weeks carefully writing each address in elegant calligraphy. Jessica said it would be more personal than printing. I later found out she'd told people I'd volunteered because I needed to feel useful. Then came the dress situation. 2 weeks before the wedding, Jessica video called me. "Margaret, I have the perfect solution. I know you've been stressed about what to wear." She smiled that practice smile. "I'm sending you a photo of a dress. It's exactly what would look stunning on you, and it coordinates perfectly with my colour scheme." The dress in the photo was a beautiful cream-coloured silk. Elegant, age-appropriate. I was touched she'd thought of me. "Are you sure?" I asked. "It's quite light. I don't want to—" "Margaret, trust me. I'm the bride. I know my vision. This is perfect. Actually, I insist." I should have known better. The wedding day arrived, and I wore the dress Jessica had chosen. I felt beautiful, confident. I'd even splurged on professional hair and makeup, wanting to look my best for Daniel's special day. The ceremony was lovely. I cried when Daniel said his vows. My baby boy, all grown up. But it was at the reception, during dinner, when everything changed. I noticed the whispers first. Women at nearby tables leaning together, glancing my way. Then more obvious stares. My sister Linda grabbed my arm. "Maggie, did you clear that dress with Jessica?" "She picked it out for me," I whispered back. "Why?" Linda's face went pale. "Oh no!" That's when Jessica stood up. She didn't walk to the microphone at the DJ booth. She strode, her white wedding gown flowing behind her like she was approaching a podium to give a TED talk on public humiliation. "Everyone, can I have your attention, please?" Her voice rang out across the ballroom of 200 guests. "I want to take a moment to address something that's been brought to my attention." My stomach dropped. "My mother-in-law, Margaret, sitting right over there," she pointed directly at me, decided that today, my wedding day, was the perfect opportunity to wear white. The room went silent. Now, I know Margaret is getting older, and maybe she forgot the basic rule that you never wear white to someone else's wedding. Or maybe, she paused for dramatic effect, maybe she's just so desperate for attention that she couldn't stand not being the centre of focus for one single day. Laughter, actual laughter from some guests. "Let's give her what she wants. Everyone, a round of applause for Margaret, who wore white to my wedding." The applause was scattered, uncomfortable, but some people clapped, some actually clapped. I sat there feeling every eye in that ballroom on me, my face burning, my hands shaking. Daniel looked torn, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. But he didn't stand. He didn't defend me. Jessica wasn't done. "But you know what? I'm going to be the bigger person here. Margaret, I forgive you. I know you must be lonely since Daniel moved out, and this is probably just your way of trying to stay relevant in his life. It's actually kind of sad when you think about it. She tilted her head with mock sympathy, the ultimate condescension. So everyone, let's show Margaret some pity, love, and make sure she feels included tonight. She clearly needs it. I wanted to scream, to stand up and defend myself, to tell everyone that she'd chosen this dress, had insisted I wear it. But what would that sound like? A humiliated woman making excuses? Instead, I did the only thing I could do. I stood up, held my head high, and walked out. Behind me, I heard Jessica's voice. See, she can't even handle a little joke. So sensitive. The discovery. I didn't go home. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, crying angry tears. Not just at the humiliation, but at the calculation behind it. Jessica had planned this. Set me up. Gave me the dress specifically so she could humiliate me in front of everyone we knew. My phone buzzed. Daniel. Mom, that was embarrassing. You really shouldn't have worn that dress. Jessica is upset. Not, are you okay? Not, I'm sorry that happened. Just disappointment that I'd embarrassed him. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove to the one place I knew I'd find clarity. My late husband Robert's grave. Sitting there in the darkness, still in that cream-coloured dress, I talked to him like I had 1,000 times before. Rob, I don't know what to do. Our son, he's not the boy we raised. That's when it hit me. I'd been so focused on being supportive, on not being the overbearing mother-in-law, that I'd missed what was happening. Jessica wasn't just controlling Daniel, she was systematically isolating him and rewriting his reality. And she'd just made a catastrophic mistake. She'd underestimated me. Robert had been a successful commercial real estate developer. When he died 5 years ago, he left me very comfortable. Jessica knew I had money. She'd made enough comments about my nice house and generous gifts, but she had no idea how much. More importantly, she had no idea about the gift Robert had left for Daniel. Our son was supposed to receive his inheritance on his 30th birthday, still 2 years away. It was a substantial amount, held in a trust that I controlled until then. Robert had structured it that way deliberately, wanting Daniel to be mature enough to handle it responsibly. Jessica didn't know about this trust, but I'd seen her Google searches on Daniel's laptop when I'd helped him move. How to access spouse's trust fund. Can wife access husband's inheritance? Marital property law's inheritance. At the time, I dismissed it as normal curiosity. Now I saw it for what it was. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Mitchell Donovan. Mitchell had been Robert's attorney for 30 years and had become a trusted friend. Mitchell, I need to understand something. The trust for Daniel, what control do I have over it? There was a pause. Margaret, are you worried about something? Just answer the question. You have complete discretion. The trust language says Daniel receives the funds when he's 30, but only if you, as trustee, determine he's financially responsible and won't waste the inheritance. If you have concerns about his judgment, you can delay distribution indefinitely. And if he's married, the trust is separate property. His spouse has no legal claim to it whatsoever. But Margaret, what's this about? I told him everything, the isolation, the humiliation, the manipulation, and finally my suspicion that Jessica had researched the trust. Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. Margaret, I need to tell you something. Daniel called me 3 weeks ago. My blood went cold. He wanted to know if there was any way to access the trust early. Said he and Jessica were looking at investment properties and needed capital. When I explained the terms, he asked if Jessica could be added as a co-trustee. What did you tell him? I told him absolutely not. The trust is ironclad and Robert's wishes were clear, but Margaret, he didn't sound like himself. He sounded coached, like he was reading from a script Jessica had written. That's when I knew. Jessica hadn't married Daniel for love. She'd married him for money she thought he already had, or could get. Mitchell, I need you to do something for me. The counterattack. Monday morning, Daniel and Jessica were supposed to fly to Bora Bora for their honeymoon. Instead, they woke up to an email from Mitchell Donovan's office requesting their presence at an urgent meeting regarding Daniel's financial matters. The email said I'd be there too. Jessica called me immediately. Her voice had that fake sweet tone she used when she wanted something. "Margaret, how are you feeling after you left the wedding? I hope you're not still upset about my little joke. You know I was just trying to lighten the mood." "I'm fine, Jessica. I'll see you at Mitchell's office at 2 p.m. "Wait, what's this meeting about? Daniel is really stressed and we're supposed to leave for our honeymoon." I hung up. At 2 p.m. sharp, I walked into Mitchell's conference room. Daniel and Jessica were already there, sitting close together. Jessica's hand was on Daniel's thigh, that controlling touch I'd seen 100 times. Mitchell started speaking before they could. "Thank you both for coming. Margaret asked for this meeting to discuss Daniel's trust fund, given his recent marriage." Jessica's eyes lit up. She actually smiled. "First, let me clarify the terms of the trust established by Robert Harper for his son Daniel. The current value of the trust is approximately $3.7 million. Jessica gasped, actually gasped. Her hand squeezed Daniel's leg so hard he flinched. She hadn't known. She'd thought there was money, but she'd had no idea how much. "The trust is scheduled to vest when Daniel turns 30, provided Margaret, as trustee, determines he's financially responsible. However, there's a clause you should be aware of." Mitchell slid a document across the table. Robert included specific language about undue influence. If Margaret believes Daniel is being manipulated or controlled in his financial decisions, she has the authority to restructure the trust's terms, delay distribution, or even redirect the funds to a charitable foundation in Daniel's name. The colour drained from Jessica's face. That's not fair," she stammered. "That money belongs to Daniel." "Actually," Mitchell continued, "it belongs to the trust. Daniel is the beneficiary, but Margaret is the trustee with full discretionary power." Daniel finally spoke. "Mum, what's going on?" I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw the confusion in his eyes. He genuinely didn't understand. "Daniel, 3 weeks ago, you called Mitchell asking how to access this money early. Do you remember that conversation?" He glanced at Jessica, then back at me. Jessica and I were just exploring options. Did you know Jessica had been researching how to access your inheritance before you even proposed?" "That's not," Jessica started. "I have the browser history, Jessica, from Daniel's laptop, dated 4 months before your engagement." The mask slipped, just for a second, but I saw it. The calculation, the cold anger. "I was just curious," Jessica said. "It's natural to want to understand your fiancé's financial situation. Is it also natural to deliberately humiliate his mother at your wedding?" Silence. "You chose that dress, Jessica. You texted me the photo. You insisted I wear it. You set me up so you could publicly shame me in front of 200 people." "I did not!" I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. "I have the text messages, the photo you sent, the message saying, 'Please wear this, it's perfect for you.'" Daniel stared at the phone, then at Jessica. "Jess, you told me Mum showed up in white on purpose. You said she was trying to upstage you." "She was. I mean, I suggested a cream dress, but not that cream." "The dress in the photo is the exact dress I wore," I said calmly. "Same designer, same shade. I have the receipt showing I ordered it the day after you sent me the photo." Mitchell cleared his throat. "There's one more thing you should know, Daniel. Your father included a letter to be opened if circumstances like this arose. He was very specific about protecting you from anyone who might try to control you or access your inheritance improperly." He handed Daniel an envelope. My son's hands shook as he opened it. I watched him read Robert's words I'd read a dozen times since Robert's death, words that had always felt overly cautious. Until now. "Dad knew," Daniel whispered. "He wrote about watching for someone who would isolate me from family, someone who would push away people who loved me, someone who would research the trust before they researched me." He looked up at Jessica, and I saw the moment it clicked. the moment my son woke up. You played me. Jessica's face hardened. Daniel, baby, you're being manipulated. Your mother is trying to poison you against me because she's jealous. Stop! Daniel's voice was quiet but firm. Just stop. The letter suggests, Mitchell continued, that if these circumstances arise, the trust should be restructured with additional oversight. Specifically, I would become co-trustee, and any distribution would require my approval as well as Margaret's. Additionally, a prenuptial agreement would need to be established protecting the trust assets, even though you're already married. A prenup after the wedding? Jessica's voice rose. That's insane. We're already married. That money is community property in California. Mitchell smiled, the predatory smile of an attorney who's been waiting for exactly this moment. Actually, inherited assets are separate property in California, not community property. The trust funds belong to Daniel alone, and with the proper legal structures, they'll remain that way. Unless, of course, Daniel chooses to commingle them with marital assets, which I strongly advise against. Jessica stood up abruptly. This is discrimination. You're punishing me for being his wife. No, I said quietly. I'm protecting my son from someone who married him for money, someone who publicly humiliated his mother as a power play, someone who's been systematically cutting him off from everyone who loves him. I stood and faced her directly. You made one critical mistake, Jessica. You thought humiliating me would make me go away. You thought I'd be too embarrassed, too hurt, too old to fight back. You underestimated me. Daniel! Jessica turned to him, her voice desperate. You're going to let her do this? Choose your mother over your wife? Daniel looked between us. For a moment, I saw the little boy who used to crawl into my lap after a nightmare. Then I saw the man his father raised him to be. Jessica, did you choose that dress for my mum to wear? She hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. Yes, she finally admitted, but I didn't know it would look so white in the lighting. Stop lying, Daniel's voice cracked. Just stop. He turned to Mitchell. What do I need to sign? The twist. The post-nuptial agreement Mitchell drafted was thorough. Any trust funds would remain Daniel's separate property. If they divorced within 10 years, Jessica would receive no portion of the inheritance, and the trust distribution would be delayed until Daniel was 35, 3 additional years for him to prove he could make sound financial decisions independently. Jessica refused to sign. If you don't sign, Daniel told her quietly, I don't access the money anyway. We live on my salary, which is fine. We build our life together honestly. But if you won't sign, I'll know for sure that you married me for money you thought I already had. She signed. But I could see it in her eyes. She was already calculating her next move. That's when Mitchell dropped the real bomb. Oh, one more thing, he said as Jessica was putting down the pen. Margaret, you should tell them about the property. I hadn't planned this part. Mitchell and I had discussed whether to reveal it at all. But seeing Jessica's barely contained rage, I decided she needed to understand exactly what she'd lost by underestimating me. Robert didn't just leave a trust for Daniel, I said. He also purchased a commercial property in downtown Los Angeles in 2019. It was supposed to be an investment we'd managed together, but he died before we could develop it. Daniel looked confused. I don't understand. What does that have to do with... Last year, the city approached me about that property. Turns out it's in a zone that's been targeted for a major development project. After months of negotiations, I sold it. For how much? Daniel asked. $23 million. Jessica made a small choking sound. Half of that money is now in an expanded trust for Daniel, bringing his total inheritance to approximately $15 million. The other half I've used to establish a foundation in Robert's name focused on helping young people escape controlling relationships. I looked directly at Jessica. The application for the foundation was approved last week. We officially launched Saturday morning, the day of your wedding. I was planning to announce it at the reception to share this joy with family and friends. I even had a speech prepared about how Robert would have loved seeing Daniel so happy. I pulled out a folded paper from my purse. But then you decided to humiliate me in front of 200 people. So instead of celebrating, I spent your wedding reception sitting in a parking lot, realizing that my son had married someone who saw him as a transaction. $15 million? Jessica's voice was hollow. She looked at Daniel with barely disguised fury. You're worth $15 million and you've been telling me we need to budget, that we can't afford a bigger apartment? I didn't know, Daniel said quietly. I knew there was a trust, but not like this. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Mitchell said. This reaction, Jessica. This is why Robert Harper included the undue influence clause. Jessica stood up so fast her chair fell backward. You know what? Fine. You win, Margaret. You want your little boy back? You can have him. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then turned back. But just so you know, Daniel, your mother isn't protecting you. She's controlling you. You're 30 years old and you still need Mommy's permission to access your own money. That's not love. That's ownership. She slammed the door behind her. The silence in the room was deafening. Daniel sat there staring at his hands. Is she right? He finally asked. Am I just trading one form of control for another? This was the moment I'd been dreading, the moment my son might turn all his anger toward me. Daniel, I said gently, your father structured the trust that way because he knew how much money could change a person. He wanted you to be mature enough to handle it responsibly, not because he didn't trust you, but because he loved you. But you could have told me, after Dad died, you could have told me about all of this. You're right, I could have. And honestly, I should have told you more. But I watched you with Jessica, saw how she was changing you, and I got scared. Scared that if you knew about the money, it would make things worse, that she'd push even harder to control you. So you controlled me instead. The accusation stung because it wasn't entirely wrong. Maybe I did, I admitted. But Daniel, I'm not trying to own you. I'm trying to protect you. And yes, there's a fine line between those things, and maybe I've crossed it. If you want Mitchell to transfer the trusteeship to someone else, we can do that. Daniel looked up, surprised. I'm serious. Your father's intention was always that you'd have the money. If you think I'm using it to manipulate you, then we'll find someone else to manage it until you turn 35. Mitchell, or a bank, or whoever you trust. And the postnup? Daniel asked. What about that? That stays, Mitchell interjected. That's non-negotiable, Daniel. If Jessica truly loves you and not your money, she should have no problem with it. Her reaction tells you everything you need to know. Epilogue. 3 months later, I was having coffee on my back patio when my phone rang. Daniel. We'd been talking more since that meeting, really talking, not just the surface conversations we'd been having for years. He'd moved out of the apartment he shared with Jessica and was staying with his friend Marcus while he figured things out. Mom, are you home? Yes, why? Can I come over? I need to tell you something. 20 minutes later, Daniel sat across from me at my kitchen table. He looked different, lighter somehow. The tension that had lived in his shoulders for the past few years was gone. Jessica filed for divorce yesterday. I waited, watching his face for signs of heartbreak. Instead, I saw relief. She tried everything first, he continued. Tears, anger, promises to change. She even claimed she was pregnant, which lasted until I suggested we go to the doctor together to confirm it. Then suddenly she miscarried the next day. Oh, Daniel! The thing is, Mum, I'm not even sad. I'm angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, but mostly, I'm just relieved it's over. He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. It was a text conversation between Jessica and someone named Brianna, dated 2 weeks before the wedding. Jessica, can't believe I'm actually doing this. The wedding's in 2 weeks and I'm having serious doubts. Brianna, about Daniel? Jessica, about the whole thing. I thought he had money now. His mum lives in that huge house and he always talked about his dad being successful. I figured there was a trust fund he could access any time. Brianna, but there isn't. Jessica, it's locked up until he's 30, 2 more years, and apparently his mum controls it, and she hates me. Brianna, so don't marry him? Jessica, I'm in too deep now. Wedding's paid for, gifts are coming in. Plus, there might be more money than I thought. I just need to get the mum out of the picture. Brianna, how? Jessica, working on it. That woman needs to learn that I'm Daniel's priority now, not her. She sent this 2 days before the wedding, Daniel said, before she humiliated you at the reception. She planned it, Mom, all of it. How did you get this? Brianna sent it to me. Apparently, Jessica told her I was too stupid to figure it out, and that once we were married, she'd find a way to get me declared incompetent so she could control the trust. I felt sick. Brianna felt guilty, Daniel continued. She said she couldn't stay silent anymore, especially after Jessica started planning to fake a mental health crisis to get me committed, temporarily, just long enough to access the money. Dear God! Mitchell says we have grounds for an annulment based on fraud. Jessica married me under false pretenses, with the intention of accessing money she knew about from the start. It's even clearer than we thought. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I'm so sorry, Mum, for not defending you at the wedding, for not seeing what she was doing, for making you feel like you were controlling when you were just trying to protect me. I reached across the table and took his hand. You have nothing to apologize for. She was very good at what she did. And, sweetheart, I'm sorry too, for not being more open about your father's plans, for letting fear drive my decisions. Dad knew, didn't he? When he wrote that letter, he somehow knew something like this might happen. Your father understood that money changes how people see you. He wanted to make sure that whoever you ended up with loved you for you, not for what you had. Jessica never loved me at all. No, I agreed quietly, but someone will, someone who sees you, really sees you, and loves what they find. Daniel nodded, wiping his eyes. Mitchell says the annulment should go through quickly, especially with Brianna's testimony. Jessica's already moved on anyway. Moved on? She's dating some tech investor she met at our wedding. Apparently, he's much better positioned financially. Daniel laughed bitterly. At least she's consistent. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. So, what now? I asked. Now I rebuild. I'm starting therapy to figure out how I got so lost. I'm reconnecting with friends she pushed away. And I'm learning to trust my own judgment again. He paused. And I'm asking Mitchell to help me understand the trust. Not because I want the money now, but because I want to understand what Dad intended, why he set it up the way he did. I want to honor his wishes, not just wait for a payout. He'd be proud of you. I hope so. Daniel stood up. I have to go. I'm meeting Marcus for dinner. But Mum, thank you for not giving up on me, for fighting for me even when I couldn't fight for myself. After he left, I sat on my patio as the sun set, thinking about Robert's letter, the one he'd written knowing he might not be there to guide our son through life's hard lessons. He'd ended it with a quote that had seemed overly dramatic when I first read it. The greatest gift we can give our children is the wisdom to recognize when someone is trying to control them and the courage to walk away. Daniel had found both. Epilogue. 6 months after the wedding that wasn't, I received an invitation to another celebration, the opening of the Robert Harper Foundation's first community centre. Daniel was there, looking healthy and whole in a way he hadn't in years. He'd started working at the foundation part-time, helping young people recognise and escape controlling relationships. It feels right, he told me. Using Dad's money for this. I think it's what he would have wanted. The trust remained intact, waiting for Daniel's 35th birthday, but it didn't matter anymore. He wasn't waiting for some magical date to start his life. He was living it now on his own terms. As for Jessica, I heard through the grapevine that she'd gotten engaged to the tech investor. I wished him luck. He'd need it. That evening, as I drove home from the opening, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, the one sitting in a parking lot in a cream-coloured dress, humiliated and alone. She'd had no idea what she was capable of. Sometimes the cruelest thing someone can do is underestimate you, because when you finally stand up and show them who you really are, the reversal is absolute. Jessica had wanted to humiliate me in front of 200 people. She'd wanted to put me in my place, to establish her dominance. Instead, she'd awakened something in me I'd forgotten I had. The steel my husband had loved, the strength I'd set aside in favor of being agreeable and accommodating. She'd tried to make me feel small. She'd made me remember I was mighty. Tomorrow I'd continue my work with the foundation, helping others find their strength. And if Jessica ever came back asking for reconciliation, with Daniel or with me, she'd better bring more than fake apologies and crocodile tears. She'd better bring something I'd never accept, a time machine to undo the moment she thought she could crush me. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments below. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who regretted it?